welcome to A View to a Grill. I'm Johnny. Today I'm going to take this flank steak, then I'm going to marinate it, and then I'm going to grill it up to this beautiful color. Then I'm going to make this delicious flank steak wrap, and I'm going to do it all on the Golden's cast iron Kamado. First, let's jump into the marinade. We're going to need a 1/4 cup of olive oil, a 1/2 cup of lemon juice, a couple of teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, a tablespoon of salt, a teaspoon of pepper, and a teaspoon of onion powder, and then some squeezed garlic. Now, in no particular order, I'm going to get all of that into a Ziploc baggie. Once I have it all in, I'll then zip it up, twirl it up, shake it up until everything comes together. And when I was done, I had some marinade that looked like this. Now we'll get our flank steak and get that into the marinade. And then when I zip up this bag now, I want to make sure that I get as much air out as possible. And when you get the air out, the marinade tends to cover the protein a whole lot better. Now we'll get that into the refrigerator for 4 to 6 hours. While that's marinating, we're going to need to put together a sauce. This is just about the easiest sauce in the world to make. All we're going to need is 8 ounces of Mexican crema and a packet of this spicy ranch dressing. One thing I like about the seasoning in this ranch dressing is that it offers a lot of flavor for 0 calories. All we're going to do is pour out the crema into a squeeze bottle, and then we're just going to follow that up with all the contents of the spicy ranch packet, and then we'll just shake it up until everything's combined. And when you're done, you're going to have some spicy ranch dressing that looks like this. Now that that's put together, here's what we're going to need for the wrap. I'm just going to be using these large Mission tortilla wraps. This one just happens to be garden spinach herb flavor, but really use any one that you like. And then I'm going to be using these multicolored cherry tomatoes, a red and yellow bell pepper, some shallots, iceberg lettuce, and salt and pepper for seasoning. I'm also going to be using some avocados for this wrap. And now let's get into our vegetable prep. For the shallots, I think I'm just going to leave these in rings, and I'm going to slice them as thin as possible. Next, we'll get our colored bell pepper and remove the seeds. And then I'll just slice these into bite-sized strips. I'm then going to get the cherry tomatoes and cut them in half. What this is going to do is release some of those juices. Then I'll get everything into a bowl and salt and pepper these to taste. Next, I'll give that a mix and just do a little taste test. Now, flavor-wise, these tomatoes didn't have a lot of acid in them, so we're going to add some in a form of lemon juice. I'm also going to add just a little bit more salt. And now we'll give that a taste, and now this is tasting pretty good. Now at this point, I am not going to slice the avocado because I don't want them to turn brown on me by the time I use them. Our steaks have been in for about 4.5 hours, and I'm going to go ahead and set up the Golden's cast iron Kamado. For the Golden's cast iron Kamado, we're going to have a hot zone and a cool zone. And I'll only be using one of the grates today because one of the cool things about the Golden's cast iron Kamado is that you can spin that grate in any direction you want. Now I have some leftover charcoal in the Kamado. I am still going to be using a full chimney starter of charcoal. We'll go ahead and get that lit. And then once we see the edges of the charcoal ashing over, that's my cue to get the charcoal into the Golden's cast iron Kamado. I always like to move the lit charcoal around for even heat distribution. Also, don't forget to wipe off any of the ash that you may have spilled on the grill grates. Now we'll just get the lid closed and preheat everything in the Kamado. About 10 minutes later, it's time to get our flank steak on. The first thing I'll do is remove the flank steak from the bag and put it on this grid just to kind of let it drip dry while we finish the prep on it. While it's on that grid, I'm going to salt and pepper the flank steak, and we're going to make sure we do this to both sides of our grilled flank steak. And now it's time to start grilling the flank steak. And at this point, my intention is to grill the whole thing over open fire until it's done. But since we set up for a hot zone and cool zone, we can always close the lid later and let it finish if we need to. For this first part of the cook, I gave it about 3 minutes and then flipped it for the first time. We have some pretty decent color development. Now we're going to let this side go for about 3 minutes. I'm going to actually check the color just in case I wanted to let it go a little bit longer. The color's looking good, but I'm going to go ahead and flip the flank steak again just to give the other side a little more color development. And then check out this color. This is the color I'm going for. Now I'll just use my ThermoWorks thermometer to check the temperature, and we're sitting at about 103 degrees. Now the internal temperature that I enjoy for flank steak is medium rare going into medium. That's what I'm shooting for today. We're not quite there yet. I'm going to go ahead and spin the steak over to the cool side of the grill. I'll then close the lid and let this go for, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. Now 4 or 5 minutes later, we're going to recheck our temperature. This time we are up to 128.9 degrees, which is a little warmer than I wanted it to be. We're still in a good range, and we'll go ahead and take that off. And then while that's resting, we'll go ahead and remove the divider plate on the Golden's cast iron Kamado. Then we'll spread those coals out a little bit. Next, we're going to add another grate and then set our sear plate on top of that so that the sear plate can heat up so we can warm up our tortilla. Now let's go ahead and wrap this up. Now the flank steak is still resting. First thing we're going to do is shred this iceberg lettuce. The next thing we're going to do is get our avocado and slice it into thin slices. We're just going to heat up our tortilla, mainly just to soften it up a bit. First, I'll put down a bed of shredded lettuce. I'm going to give that just a little salt and a squeeze of lemon juice. And next we're going to get our flank steak and slice that into thin slices. Now it came out a little bit too warm for what I was going for, but it is still juicy. Now of course I had to take a little taste, and yeah, that's pretty good. I'll then cut up the flank steak into more manageable bite-sized pieces. Then I'll get that right onto our bed of lettuce. Now I'm going to put on a good helping of those tomatoes and onions that we prepped earlier. We're going to put that sliced avocado right down the length of our wrap. We'll get that folded up and then cut it right in half. And take a look at this. This is looking absolutely delicious. Now we'll give it a little taste test, and as I'm biting into this, I'm thinking to myself, I forgot something. So now we'll go ahead and grab our sauce, give that a good squeeze right on top, and take another taste test. And yeah, that sauce is exactly what that was needing. That tang and zip that we get from that Mexican crema with the ranch. Just put this right over the top. Now, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, take a minute, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching A View to a Grill. I'll see you guys next time. Take care, y'all.